Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edge Talk Radio. My name is Angela Zabel. That's me. And today we're here with Tess Fyalka. We're going to be talking about leadership from panic to powerful. She's an author from Illinois, and I can't wait to get into this one. It's going to be so much fun. So, who am I? My name is Angela Zabel. I've connected to spirit, working with a team in the non-physical my entire life, sharing messages from a multitude of realms with people. I'm a teacher, coach, medium, radio show host, writer, retreat host, gallery reader, doing speaking engagements, offering guidance, mediumship, intuition with online, private, and group sessions, classes, and the Amplified Universe monthly membership group, growing our connection to us, our world, all that is around us, and our role in it, sharing knowledge and working with others throughout the world. You can find out more about me on pretty much all the social media out there, but go to angelazabel.com. And today we're going to try to get this in here. Let's do our best.
Yeah.
We are here with Edge Magazine. It is a leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living, health, wellness, and the mysteries beyond. Sharing information, wisdom, and resources committed in promoting businesses, organizations, and individuals who support our collective journey to wholeness and balance. Currently distributed in 30 states plus Canada, with over 17,000 magazines per printing, and also a vibrant online magazine with over 42,000 people reached per month. Have the magazine shipped to your door. Stay up to date with the newsletter. Become a drop spot. So go on their site, edgemagazine.net, and also make sure to check out Kelly Wagner's The Being Curious Show. So today we have Tess Fyalka, and she has been just, I've been talking to her beforehand, and we've been having a great time. So I can't wait for you to meet her. So she has been promoted, she has recently been promoted to, I'm going to start that over, have you recently been promoted to new leadership roles? And thanks to the stellar individual performance as an employee, you are finding the skill sets needed to serve you well as a standout staff member in a woefully inadequate or new role at managing people and a unified design to fulfill corporate objective peacefully and effectively. That's important today is peacefully and effectively because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on out there. So keep that in mind. The peace and everything is important. Help is on your way. You'll find all the answers you need to get started cutting through the challenging team dynamics and managing them effectively to maximum high performance success while doing it with the minimum disruption of the loss of sanity. That's important to keep your sanity today. Tess Fyalka is now booking Walking the Leadership Ledge, the new leader's guide to building resilience and confidence at every step, pulls from her 25 years of experience in leadership, management, corporate training, and organizational development. She's a sought-after speaker, and Tess is only one of 240 professional leadership coaches in the United States and 1,100 worldwide to have earned the International Coaching Federation's advanced certification in team coaching. Today, she's here to offer her exceptional insights into transforming you into the superstar in leadership. And I've got to say, leadership is important in everything you do, whether you're in the corporate setting, whether you're in a personal setting, and sometimes there needs to be some really good leaders in family settings. So keep that in mind. And I want you to make sure to check out her website, theanglecoaching.com, and that's ANGLECOACHING.com, and also walkingtheleadershipledge.com. And for those of you listening, it's WALKINGTHELEADERSHIP She's got so much important, there's so much great things on her website. And also you can find her on leadership and check out her on LinkedIn and check out her new book, Walking the Leadership Ledge, the New Leader's Guide to Beginning Resilience and Confidence at Every Step. That's on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. She also does coaching, team coaching, alignment, crossroads coaching, and when next is calling you, but you haven't answered yet. Workshops, online offerings. There's so much there. So make sure you are, and she's also a keynote speaker, and I can't wait to get speaking to her soon. So Tess, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being here so much. I've got to ask, what brought you into leadership as your goal?
Well, first of all, Angela, thank you for that very generous introduction. I so appreciate that. So yes, what brought me into leadership? I could go so many different directions with this. Um, First of all, I was one of those new leaders, and I found myself, early in my career, and I was appointed to a leadership role, and I was absolutely in over my head, and it was really very much, that was we're still we still do this, but that was very much toss you into the deep end of the pool.
Yes.
Hope you can swim, hopefully you won't pull anybody else under, when you quite possibly go under yourself. But so from my own experience, my own challenges that I had, and that was sort of the foundation. And I think that probably speaks to virtually anyone who has found themselves in a leadership role. And as you mentioned, I am of the mind that we are all leaders, no matter what our role is, no matter what our position is, and we have to lead ourselves most often before we're leading a team. But I don't want to digress just yet. But where I really became passionate about leadership development and management was I went into I was my first career was in marketing and public relations, and I did that for about 12 years. So I went out on my own, and I connected with a management consulting company, and I started working with them. And I fell in love with all things leadership and management. And at the same time, I was transitioning out of marketing and public relations, and part of that was because what I found over and over and again was that companies will spend a lot of money on, advertising and marketing and public relations and all this, and but they don't develop their teams. They don't train their teams so often to actually execute on what it is they're saying they do so well publicly. And so that was very much a frustration. But then, also seeing the oftentimes, and with this particular company that I worked with, the management consulting company, they were focused very much on a niche market in the healthcare industry.
Mm.
And folks in healthcare go into healthcare not to run businesses. They go into healthcare because they want to help people. And so then they find themselves in running practices and whatnot, and they have to lead people, and they have to have management systems, and all of those things that pull them away from the real reason they went into their profession in the first place. And so that really fueled the passion in me around that, because I could see that what is possible when leaders are equipped and they have the structure, they have the infrastructure, they have the vision, and now they've got a way in which they can manifest that vision in help setting up the systems and structures and building their teams so that the teams can become as passionate as the leader
Mm.
is about fulfilling the vision. And that's really where the magic happens. It's like when you can create an environment where people want to come to work,
Yes.
and each person feels like a leader as part of the team. It's not just, the CEO or the director or the manager, whatever it is. Each person feels like what they are doing is essential because they too are leading their piece of it toward what are we collectively trying to do here, and what's possible when you can align that and create that type of an environment. So that's really where, it kind of all, and then it all grew from there. And then I went into coaching, and that just opened up a whole other area of potential in terms of tapping into human potential and what people are really capable of when we can get past those blocks, when we can spot those blocks and help them again to, look inward. Who am I? What do I seek to achieve? Who is the person I hope to become? Who is the leader I hope to become? And what is the impact that I want to choose to have in this, this little corner of the universe that I'm existing in.
I think that's really important, though, when you're talking about people going into, and you're talking about people going into healthcare, but this can actually go into so many different realms. Think of all the people who have small businesses and you're dealing with whether it's customers or people, you have a small team, different things like that. And for ones that have a huge team and also, families. When you're talking about being a leader, that's the same as you can transfer that same information to if you have children, how to help them become a leader, how to help them build their confidence and bring up this resonates to so many different areas. And I just keep hearing the tip of the iceberg of where it can be applied because we are all leaders. And I've got to say, Tess and I were talking beforehand, so I always talk to the guests at a time. And we were talking about like how does this fit in with the with our audience? But I feel from my standpoint is everybody is a leader. Everybody has leadership skills and using that leadership to help, whether it's your family, whether it's people you're working with, whether it's people you're just having interactions with, when you're coming from a different presence, a different perspective, it makes it so much different. And we talked about peace, having peaceful areas. When you can have interactions with challenging people, and have it in a peaceful way, that's a win for everyone,
Mhm.
everyone that's out there. And I know as you were thrown, kind of put into the leadership position, did you have as much support when you started that, or was it pretty much throw you in the water and see if you can swim?
Oh, absolutely. It was throw you in the water and see if you can swim. I mean, yeah, this was the 90s, and so it's like we hadn't quite figured out, certainly not in the organizations that I was working in, hadn't quite figured out that, okay, individual contributors are wonderful individual contributors, and that requires a certain skill set to be a phenomenal individual contributor. But just because they're a great individual contributor does not mean they're going to be a phenomenal manager or leader. And it's because it is a whole different skill set. And yeah, I talk about in the book, it's like, okay, so we'll say, Anna is an accountant on the accounting team, and she's like her spreadsheets are like poetry and numbers, and the joke around the office is, well, she could write an Excel spreadsheet to do the dishes. She's that good, Excel formula, and then she gets so, and then leadership looks at that, and they're like, oh well, if we can put her in the manager position, then everyone around her is going to be just as good. And then that doesn't happen, and in the worst case scenarios, the wheels fall off the bus, and that individual contributor there then is not intentionally, but just because the systems aren't in place, is often set up to fail, because it is a completely different set of skills that leadership requires than the individual contributor. The individual contributor gets the notice, they're really phenomenal, but you're like at the bottom of the S curve again, and you've got to learn the skills to be an effective leader and manager. And the other thing is too, oftentimes there are not really good role models. And so, you might be looking at so and so thinking, okay, is that how leadership is supposed to look? And especially until you really get a sense of your own values and what you're really trying to achieve and what's most important to you and the impact that you want to have, then you keep looking externally, for that information and the role models. And until, as I said, we were talking beforehand, leadership is an inside out job. And so until you are willing to really turn the mirror on yourself and take a close look at what are the fears that could be driving you, that are tripping you up, that are getting in your way, and that are holding you back, and who is the leader that you want to bring, that you know is inside of you. And you have to begin writing your own story early on. We're our story is being written, by everyone else around us, and that's just part of life. That's how we figure out, how to make our way in the world.
Yes.
And that's just very human. That's part of the journey of adult development.
Yeah.
And then, at some point, you come to a crossroads, and you have to decide if you're going to continue to be defined by others, or if you're going to say it's time for me to write my own story. So I've now rambled on. So
I
chime
think
in.
I think that's really important for people to know because, leadership, and you mentioned about who do I want to portray? Who do I want to, what is the person I'm looking up to? And I feel, and from what my team has been telling me, is leadership and jobs as a whole, the whole industry is going to be changing to a more heart-centered industry, a more caring and compassionate, where when you're going to work, you're recognized for who you are and you're given these leadership roles where people can shine in each of their own individuality also. And like you said, when the 90s, they just threw you in, sink or swim, and they really didn't care a lot of times which way you went. But now, because you're there, you're doing coaching with companies, you're talking with other people, you're working with people individually. Are you seeing a difference in how people are looking at leadership versus what they did before? Are you seeing where they're maybe a little more compassionate and wanting to work with people in a more heart-centered way?
I think there are pockets where that is occurring. And I think we are still, even though we are 26 years now into the 21st century, the 20th century model of leadership, command and control,
Mm, yeah,
is there are still so many remnants of that. And the thing is, it's easy, because
yeah,
command and control is all about black and white. You're with me or
yeah.
you're against me. I win or I lose. And that was so much. It was a product of so many things, but and also, the polarities, and that, the it fueled those polarities. And I I think what comes up for me around that is that is like the lazy brain at work,
Mm,
because it's so much easier to say, well, it's this or it's that. I'm in charge, and you're taking orders from me. All right. And that is just really the lazy brain, in my opinion.
mm.
And but we're, like I said, we're 26 years into the 21st century, and we are facing levels of complexity like we've never seen, and
Yeah.
the rapid change, and and a leader does not have the luxury of having all the answers. Okay. And now, in when we were, through the 20th century, becoming an industrialized society, and they could, work their way up, through the factory, and they knew the factory line, from
Yeah.
start to finish. So by the time they got to a manager or leadership position, then sure, they did have all the answers, but we don't live in that world anymore. And the importance of tapping into the collective intelligence that is around the room, and what each person brings to the table, it's much flatter. And that's where the magic happens, because and it creates this environment where everyone is invested in contributing, and in the success of the why of the organization. Why
Yeah.
are we here as an organization? What are we here to achieve? And how do we together map that journey? And it's not about you or me and who's winning, who's getting ahead. It's this sense of, in my dream world, it is this sense of, the organizations are there in service to the people, and that and then and they are made up of individuals who feel like they belong, and they can bring those perspectives, and they can bring that intelligence to the organization, their gifts that they have.
I think I know that's really where everything is going. My team has been telling me everything's getting shaken up right now, and it's getting shaken up for a good reason because it's time not to have because the old I forget what you the collect or the control about the control, having the control, command and control. When people have that command and control, it's basically about putting fear into people. Command and
Exactly.
control is about fear. And if we're going to move into a new era, which we already are, that is releasing that fear, the command and control doesn't work anymore because that's not part of this new energy. And you've tapped into, like you said, that collective intelligence. Everybody's bringing something to the table. And that's realizing, and my team is bringing me back to where you said, right now you're seeing small pockets of that change where they're looking at organizations and going, everybody's part of the organization. How can we make everyone feel they're a part of this organization? Everyone is moving themselves forward. Everyone has this collective goal, but it's also about the people. And that's something that I'm just going to say years ago, it was more of, you're a number. There's still that out there. You're a number. You're expendable. And now it's moving into more of being appreciative of the people who are working for them and how can we help them grow. And I'm feeling that is moving forward at a much faster pace now. And yes, there was pockets, but my team is saying you're seeing the small pockets, but they're seeing the big ones. There's a lot of change and a lot of growth happening. So it's knowing, it's tapping in when you're feeling like, am I making a difference? Is it small pockets? To know it's big pockets and it's rapidly changing and it will be rapidly changing. A lot of us will see a lot of that change in our lifetimes, and that's huge. And there's going to be there, my team is showing you're going to see in your lifetimes it's switched where the pockets of the command and control, those are small pockets, and the others is going to be the much bigger overlay of everything. But that's also because of people like you who are coming in to say, here's a new way to look at it. Here's a way to look at leadership differently. And that's something I've looked through. So I'm going to be honest with everybody here. I use my team a lot when I do these. So I had the book from Tess and I have my team. I'll kind of use it like an oracle card deck and I'll scroll down and tell them, ask, where do I need to stop? So they had me stop on page 54 of your book. And it's called Step Up to the Difficult Conversation Using Compassionate Candor. And when you were in this and you were talking about how it says when your role demands you stand toe to toe with a difficult conversation, it's important to have a plan. And then you have a step-by-step approach you can experiment with and using it as a guide and not a prescription. I think that's huge because I want to know how you came about doing that, but I just want to say a little bit here about, for me, everything I do, I teach people how to do things multiple ways. And I tell them use whatever works best for you and then make it your own, add to it, change it, because it's just the template to start. And that's why I like what you had put in here about use this as a guide, not a prescription. And as you went through this, and I'm going to say difficult conversations, and I don't care if you're in the boardroom, if you're in a job, you're working with someone, or you have a family situation, finding those areas where you are in a difficult conversation, that's huge. And I know Tess and I had talked earlier about what's spiritual with what I do. This is spiritual because there are everyone here and listening has all had difficult conversations with people. What are ways you can help people move through those difficult conversations?
So we've been talking about fear.
Hmm.
And what makes the conversation difficult in most cases is because we are looking at it through the lens of fear. And oh, it's not going to go well, and the person is going to react in a certain way, or they're not going to like me, or I don't want to ruffle any feathers, or and so we it is, and I'll go back. It's the small brain. It's the primitive brain. It's the survival brain, And the survival brain is trying to tell you that no, that's a dangerous situation. And so our natural tendency in so many cases is to avoid it. In other cases, some people will have them, and they'll have them very poorly. Most of the folks that I work with, in most cases, they avoid them, and because again, they're driven by fear, and fear is rooted in the lazy brain, and looking for the path of least resistance. And so if we can, first of all, in an organization or in a family, with our team, whatever our team is, then if we are engaging in, we're creating a culture of conversation, we're creating a culture of dialogue, and I'll speak to business, and I'll speak to small business in particular, the where we when we have a culture of dialogue and conversation, there's clarity around, what's my role, what are the expectations, and you, Angela, as my leader, you're helping to coach me. And you're ensuring that I've got clarity around what success looks like, and if I have questions, I can come to you, and we're having regular conversations. So usually when we are facing a difficult conversation and it feels particularly challenging, oftentimes we haven't been engaging in conversation along the way. So
Mm.
we've been pushing it aside and pushing it aside and pushing it aside. And so if we can first of all create an environment where we're having ongoing conversation, and it's not about you or me, it's about what are we together here to achieve, and that is, in service to what is our I'll say our mission is, and purpose is the organization, and hopefully, um, ideally, that is consistent with our purpose as individuals.
Yeah.
So if we look at it as like, okay, we're both sitting on the same side of the table, and this is what we're trying to achieve together, and this is what where I'm noticing that you might be struggling, or where you can say, this is where I'm struggling, and we can create that environment where it's not rooted in fear, because we're having ongoing conversation and ongoing dialogue. And so, all right, so that's the ideal world, and then we're not quite there yet, and we still have situations in which we got to have that difficult conversation. And so, getting clear on what's your intention. First of all, we react in a certain way. Say, Joe in the meeting seems to be, always speaking up and talking over everybody else in the room, and he's new to the team. And so the first couple times it's like, okay, all right, well, Joe's enthusiastic, and then it's starting to get on your nerves. And it's like, Joe, you're running, what's going through your mind is like, okay, Joe keeps running over the team members, and other people are starting to shut down and they're not talking. And so you as the leader, being mindful of what story am I telling myself
Mm.
about Joe and his intention, because I go to this place where, as a leader, I can tell a very negative story.
Right.
Geez, Joe is arrogant. Joe's just trying to show everybody how smart he is. Whatever. I can do that. Because we're all very good at telling our simple stories, right?
Yes.
All you have to do is drive in the car and realize, all this. I don't want to go off on that tangent, but anyway. So, what story am I telling myself? Are you getting this? Yeah, about okay. I'm driving in the car, and like somebody cuts you off in traffic, and you're like,
Yes.
oh, that jerk, they're probably on TikTok, or they're watching cat videos, and it's like, wait a minute, okay, so and I joke, I don't know who the woman is who gets behind the wheel of my car, but I don't usually recognize her, and so anyway, so being mindful of what's the story I'm telling myself about Joe's intentions. And if I can tell myself a different story, okay, well, maybe Joe is, this is Joe's way of connecting with people, and he doesn't realize that he's running over everybody else in the room, and that's how he connects. And there are those very exuberant and outgoing personalities, and that's how they connect. So I can look at it through that lens. I can also look at it through a lens of, Joe might be nervous. He feels uncertain in this role in this new organization, and so being mindful, first of all, of what story are you telling yourself about the situation that feels like a difficult conversation, and how can you hold another story, and if you can try to at least hold two stories, two or three. Your first story might be right, but oftentimes we are so wired to jump to conclusions, and it's so often the most negative conclusion, the most
Yes.
negative assumption. And so trying to just really notice that first of all, and then as you approach the conversation, I go back to what's my intention. If I'm going to have this conversation, what do I want for our relationship? What do I want for the team? What do I want? What do I want for myself as a leader? What do I want for this person? And if my intention is to prove I'm right, set them straight, whatever. If my intention is rooted in what I will say doing harm,
Yeah.
then I merely pour emotional gasoline on already a challenging situation. But if again, if I can be mindful of what's another story I could tell myself about their motivations and how I can hold that with compassion. And then if my intention is truly, I want this person to succeed. I want them to know that I care about them as a human being. And I want to help them by shining a light on an area where they may not even realize that it's getting in their way. And so it's from that place of your positive motivation sets the tone for how you will approach the conversation. And then walking in with curiosity. Because hey, I'm seeing this, Joe. I've noticed this in the last few meetings, that that you're speaking up a lot. I'm noticing that that our team members are not speaking quite as much, and I'm also noticing it myself that I'm holding back as well. How are you seeing our team meetings? And just and it's like, and Joe may be like, wow, I had no idea. I'm so excited about what we're doing. I'm sharing my ideas, and then you can also you can have a conversation around, all right, so can we experiment with, at the next meeting, maybe what would be some things that maybe you could do, Joe, to help engage the other team members? And so this then gets you out of the position where you're telling Joe how to fix it.
Yes.
Then Joe's bringing his own solutions around, okay, yeah, I really want to connect with my team members. I'll bring a few other questions. I'll make a note on my notepad that says quiet or something like that, whatever it is. Okay, so now, that's one way that this could go. Or, because Joe is a human being like all the rest of us, he may react defensively.
Yeah.
And he may be like, and see, this is what we fear, that we assume that Joe is going to react defensively. And so
Yes.
we don't have the conversation, or we wait so long till we're so frustrated and then we don't have the conversation well. Now, Joe may indeed be, he may react defensively, and he may be like, yeah, you know what? That really is their problem because they just need to speak up. And I haven't done anything wrong. And Joe's being human. It doesn't make Joe a bad person. Joe's reacting from his small brain, and so fear is kicking in for Joe. And so that's really the opportunity for you as the leader to restate your intention. Yeah, Joe, what I really want for you is I really want to help you succeed, and I want what is best for you and to help you to really work well with your teammates. And it's that going back, you're not getting triggered by Joe's emotional reaction. You're recognizing that he's a human being and that his small little amygdala is kicking in, and that's okay. But you maintain your centeredness, your groundedness in what you really want for Joe and for your team, is that we're all having a conversation because we are working toward creating a culture of conversation, culture of dialogue. And what does that mean in terms of how we work most effectively together?
I think what
Have
you had
some.
said too about it is really about dialogue, having that dialogue, keeping the dialogue going. And you talk about fear. It's also fear on the leadership point, like you said. If I go and say this, are they going to get angry? What do I do if they get angry? How do I handle it? And that's a real fear. And then how do you handle it if they get really, let's say, belligerent and trying to take that and I think that's some of the most the biggest fear that holds people back is what if you do confront and not confront, but you do decide to have a conversation and they do get upset emotionally. What what do you recommend people do if you are dealing with someone where they are getting very emotional? Are there ways to help take that down, that emotional down?
Yes. Well, first of all, always recognize that you bring the weather.
Mm,
And so you're walking into the conversation very calm and very open and genuinely curious
yeah,
about what's going on with them. So you're already creating an environment of calm
yeah.
because you're not coming after them. And so, and then in that moment when they may be reacting, again, from a place of fear, and they may be acting in a way that is inappropriate, or belligerent, as you said, the you can always pause the conversation
Mm.
and restate your intention. What I really want for us as a team is to be able to address this situation effectively. You're a valued member of the team, and how might we go about that? You can, but you can always pause and say, "Hey, this is difficult for you. This is a difficult situation, and I want us to come back together when we can together figure out a solution." And you don't have to continue to engage. But what I would say is most important is that you are grounded walking into the conversation, and
Mm.
you have clarity around what are you going to choose to bring to the dialogue. And you're very intentional about the leader that you will show up as in that moment to facilitate resolution to the situation.
I think that's something really important for people to hear and especially the pause part when it gets a little out of hand to be able to say, hey, let's take a pause. Let's step back. Let's do something a little different. And I just keep hearing from my team, this is something for everyone to do in any situation when you're feeling like the emotions are getting too high, is to take a moment, take a breath and say, hey, let's stop. Let's reevaluate. Let's come back at a later date, at a later time, whatever you need to do. And they're laughing. Always have an exit plan.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I think you said an important word there, the emotions, and being able to notice your own emotions, because,
Mm.
the neurons kick in, and we're reacting to them emotionally because we're getting triggered. And so that, oh, okay, I can feel my heart racing. My throat is starting to tighten, and it's like, okay, you can notice physically, somatically, what is happening to you, and then, and because the body is the first responder, and so the body senses the emotions before it registers up here, right? And so then you can have your plan for, if I'm feeling the emotions, what is my strategy when those emotions start kicking in. And the other thing that I talk about in the book, and that I am a firm believer of, and that is establishing a team pact. And I use the word pact because the word is rooted in peace. And pretty much every team I work with needs a bit more peace.
Yeah,
And so
that's
and
true.
yeah, yes, exactly, right?
Just being
We could use
honest.
a lot more peace. Yes. Maybe not even just a bit more peace, maybe a lot more peace,
Maybe a
but
lot more peace.
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, but the thing is with the team pact, so that is where the team comes together, and And they are talking about what kind of a team environment, what kind of a team culture are we going to create? What do we want? And most of us, if we've been on this planet for any time and all worked in any kind of an organization or business, we've probably experienced a dysfunctional, if not toxic team. And so we know what we don't want, because most of us have experienced it. But the key is to begin articulating, what do you want? If we're going to work most effectively together, what's that going to look like? And so most teams, they want basically four core things. They'll get to it. I do a series of exercises where they discover, what it is that they want to
Right.
create. But essentially, most teams, they want communication, they want trust, they want respect, and they want accountability.
Mm.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Those are beautiful buckets, right? All right.
Yeah.
They're
Very, very
beautiful.
good buckets. Yeah.
But here's the thing is that Angela, your idea of what trust looks like is probably different than what my idea is.
Yeah.
And so the whole point of in formulating their pact is they have a conversation around, well, what does trust look like to you in action?
Mm.
What does communication look like to you in action? What does it look like to me? How do I interpret that? And so there's a shared understanding of, yeah, we all want, trust and accountability and respect and communication. Those are wonderful things. But what does it look like in action? And how do we create an environment where we are intentional about showing up these behaviors that we value so deeply, that we will commit to each other, that we will when we're communicating, we do so in this way. Accountability looks like this on our team.
Mm.
And then you've gotten past the, like, that person's not trustworthy, they didn't do this. Well, their idea and your idea are different.
Yeah.
So it really helps the team to say, this is basically how we're going to play most effectively, in this sandbox together. And yeah. So
I think, that's really important where you talked about actually breaking down the words, communication, trust, respect, accountability, because like you said, you know it in your mind what it is, but to actually get it out so everybody can see their ideas of it, it looks very, very different. And a
you would
lot of
not believe how different it looks. I mean, to different people. Yes. And especially respect. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
mean
I,
to
I
step
want,
on you
I'm
too.
curious. No, I'm curious. What have you noticed the differences of people when they're putting these things down? Like, is there I would assume a lot of them are pretty close, but there's got to be some with very wide swings.
hmm Oh, yeah, and especially, in an organization or even on a project team, you take something like respect, and for one individual, that's going to be, well, you're going to allow my ideas to be heard, and you're going to be willing to listen to all of the ideas in the room. For somebody else, it might be, you're going to respond to my emails within 24 hours. I
Mm,
mean, it can be
yeah.
very different, so it's like, and the thing is, then you understand what matters to people, what's important to them. And it's not the things that that matter to me are not more important than the things that matter to you.
And that's something really, it is important to break down everything. And my team is saying this is a really good conversation because there are so many, even the words we use, trust, respect, accountability, communication. What does it actually mean to you? And when you are having a breakdown in where you are or people around you, look at what that is and break it down to what it means to you so you can convey to others why you feel you're not being respected or you're not listened to. Because if you don't have a clear idea of what it means to you first, how can you communicate to others what you feel is missing or needs to be changed? And this is for anything in your life. And my team is laughing because they've been on me to really listen to my words, what I'm speaking, what I mean by those words, and they've kind of pushed me to taking a word and going, so what does it mean to you? What does it really mean? And it's like, God, you don't even think about it. You say words and you don't realize like what is the meaning behind them, and it's very interesting when you take those moments and do some introspection and really evaluate in yourself what is it you want? What is it you need? That's so important because a lot of us, I mean, I was one of them, you just do what you got to do and you don't think of it. And then you're going like, I just feel like nobody cares. Well, did you ask why? Did you go within and ask yourself, why am I not feeling like I matter? Or, and I hear this a lot with a lot of people. They're like, I don't feel I matter. I don't feel what I'm doing makes a difference. But if you start digging through and ask why, what would make you feel like you matter? I think that's the biggest question. What would make you
Yes.
feel you matter?
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
something you're helping so many people to really kind of dig out instead of just going with the flow, is asking, what do you need? What do you need?
Yes.
How can we be better people working together? And this is for everything, everything in our world. How can we be better people and how can we work together better and still respect everybody's differences? Because just like you said, there's the wild, I want the email in 24 hours or, you need to listen to me on this. It's a big difference, but people don't understand. They don't understand the disconnect. Instead of going, what is the difference and how can we respect the differences? And I think that's something huge you are doing with the differences in people. How do you help people through those differences? Is just recognition? Is that the first step for everything?
Yes, it is the first step. And and when I work with a team, this is not easy. And I don't, I'm not coming in and sprinkling pixie dust, and I don't sugarcoat it because again, we're complex human beings, and and we bring our full selves to everything that we do. Whether we may not show our full selves, but we bring our full selves to everything that we do. And so the team pact is really the first step. And also then there's the ownership around how am I contributing, either willingly or unwittingly, to dysfunction on the team. What happens to me when I am stressed? When I'm upset, am I shutting down and I'm stonewalling? Am I being hypercritical? Am I going to contempt? What's happening to me, and how am I behaving? And what are you team members going to see? Because you've
Mm,
already seen it, but I own it. I own my behavior, and I openly acknowledge this is what's happening to me. This is probably what you're going to see if you haven't seen it already. Most of you probably have. And this is what I need from you, team member Angela, to help me get to the other side
mm,
when I go to this place where I am, stonewalling or I'm being hypercritical, I'm probably under a lot of stress. And if you could maybe sit down with me and say, hey, let's talk about this. What do we need to look at that's on your plate? And then but I have to own my behavior, and I also have to own my articulating what I need from my teammates to help me get to the other side. And I'm also making a commitment for when I am at my best, this is what I'm working toward. This is what
mm.
you're going to see. I am a work in progress. I am trying to get to this place, but there are going to be days when I am contributing to the dysfunction and I need your help to get me to the other side. But we own it. We're not pointing fingers and blaming, well, so and so is this or whatever. We own our own behavior. So that is a piece of it as well. But then the other thing is with the team pact, and then we also talk about what do I need from my teammates to be the best version of myself? Okay, I may need my teammates to explain something to me, create an environment where I feel comfortable asking questions. Where and again we're exercising courageous vulnerability and articulating what we need from our teammates, what we need from ourselves, and then the team pact. It's a dynamic document, and so the team has to commit to revisiting the document, at least once a month. And you're
Oh,
talking about, and again, it's part of that creating, the culture of conversation, the culture of dialogue, and we're going to look together at the team pact that we have together created. It's not, the leader hasn't created this; we've together created it, and We're going to look at that and we're going to say, okay, we are absolutely crushing it. We're doing just great on this and this and this and this, and we're going to celebrate that. And hey, this isn't we're not walking the talk. We're not
Yeah.
living this. So what's getting in the way? Is it, what else? Is there something else underneath this that we need to address? Is this a systems issue, a process issue, that's getting in the way of our ability to fulfill this commitment that we've made to one another? And so, but you're again, you're having conversations around how are you working most effectively together. We're not pushing it to the side. We're talking about what's working great, and we're talking about what do we need to address whatever might be getting in our way. And stuff is always going to be getting, you might be crushing it in this area, for 6 months, and then all of a sudden things go off the rails. And so, something happens. But it's that openness and that curiosity. And also, I think we go in with the assumption that people want to do a good job. People don't come to work wanting to do a horrible job. I mean, they've got life that happens and all of that, but you look at your teammates from through the lens of this human being wants to succeed. They want to do a good job. I mean, and in some cases they may be in the wrong role, and the
Right.
universe needs them to be in another place, and this isn't a good fit for them. And that's part of the realities as well. But what can you do to create an environment where people want to be there and they're committed to helping each other, and you are doing this in service to each other, in service to the community that you're serving, and hopefully for the betterment of the population at large.
And that's really important because it is, you want everyone to succeed. And yes, there are people that maybe might not. There's those pockets out there, but I think the vast majority of people really want other people to succeed. They want themselves to succeed. People want to be recognized for what they're doing. It doesn't mean you need accolades every day, but to be recognized, that's huge because there's so many people, and my team is just showing me the quiet workers, the quiet people who will just be doing their job. Nobody says anything, and they're just the expectation that they're always going to be doing their job right. They're always going to be taking care of it, but yet there's no reciprocation to say, "Hey, you are doing a good job. We appreciate, we see you." Because they're showing just like the one, like sometimes you'll have the child that's very loud and the child that's very quiet, and you spend the time trying to take care of the child that's loud, but the quiet one really is just like, oh, they'll take care of themselves. And this is really a time to recognize everyone, all the strengths that people have, because there are a lot of strength, and my team is laughing. But then there are also the people that their strengths don't fit that job, and it's okay for, and they're saying if you're that person to move on to a different job if you don't resonate with it. There's nothing wrong with that. That just means you're following who you really are. So there are times where team members will be leaving, and that's okay because the resonance just isn't there, and that's okay. You're building a different type of energy, an a way of supporting people and acknowledging who they are. I think it's a beautiful space to be in. And think of the times, like you said, we've all worked at jobs where it wasn't that way. But a lot of times you look back, some of those jobs you may have really liked if the management would have been different, or if the people you were working with would have been different. It would have been a very enjoyable experience. And I just keep hearing, and my team is saying, this is a time for people to find joy in their work, to find joy in whatever they're doing in their everyday life, because that's the key to happiness is being happy with where you're at, being joyful and being excited no matter what you do going to work. Yeah, there's going to be days where it's kind of like, I really don't feel like being here, but they're very small. They're very small when you have a good work environment. And I love that that's what you're doing, is helping companies, helping people to create a good work environment. And my team keeps saying, they're saying, we want you to realize this is also not just that, but family, having a good family environment. If you have a good work environment, isn't that going to spill over into the family life? So look at, you're creating a lot of work-life balance by integrating what you're learning there, bringing it home, or taking what you have at home and bringing it to work, having open conversations. And I think the open conversations is the biggest thing holding so many people back, of the fear of having those open conversations. And that's one of the things you said there was something, I think it was page 58 of your book, and it had plucking the BRR,
Yes, yes, the burr.
the
Pluck the
burr.
burr.
So can you explain what the burr is?
So the burr is, and I want to come back to a couple of other things that you said, but
Absolutely.
but to clarify the burr. So um so I have two little dogs, Cooper and Cash, and they love to go to the park and they love to run around. And they're all having a great time until they get these burrs in their fur. Okay, and a burr is a spiky little like little weed like thing, and they're very painful. And the thing is with when we are avoiding a conversation, it's kind of like the burr, and it's like that first little burr that catches on your pant leg or is in your sleeve or whatever, is a little uncomfortable, but it's like you can kind of ignore it. Like it'll probably work its way out. You can kind of ignore it. And then, and it's kind of like, so the behavior. So the first B stands for what's the behavior? And so somebody behaves in a way, and I'll go back to Joe in the meeting, and
Mm,
he's okay, he's talked over, people, okay, that's a little annoying. And it's and it's kind of like, okay, well, it's a little annoying, but it's not that big a deal. And so then there's the second R. Okay. So that's the repeated. Okay. So here's the behavior. And is this behavior something now that you has been repeated a couple of times? Okay. It has happened more than once, and it seems to be a pattern. And then the third R is the second R. There's BRR. The second R is the risk. What is the risk if I don't address this, or if I do address this? And the thing is with these situations that we tend to ignore, like the first couple times, and now it's becoming a pattern. And what's the impact that it is having, this
mhm.
behavior that I'm looking the other way, and the impact is the risk, and it's shutting the team down, or we're not moving forward, we keep spinning our wheels, we keep arguing about the same things, and we're not addressing the issue. And so that little prickly burr now is a whole big ball of burrs, and it's painful. And that's why if we can get in the habit of creating a culture of dialogue and conversation, then we're before these things get uncomfortable, we're just saying, hey, I noticed this, can you help me understand what's going on? Is there something we need to talk about, something breaking down in the system, a challenge that you're running into, whatever it is, but we neutralize ongoing conversation about what we're noticing, what we're seeing, and it's just part of the dialogue. And oh, okay, yeah, I had a rough morning, or I had stuff going on at home, and it's just like, yeah, it's just whatever, the kids were up all night, whatever. And but we're having just ongoing conversation about what's happening on the team, so it's not, when we're not retreating to our corners and then
Yeah.
quietly making assumptions and pointing fingers. And that's where the toxicity, that's where all of the ingredients for a dysfunctional toxic team start to get mixed in the pot. So there were a couple things that you said before about the quiet ones. So
Yes.
yes. And I think that is so important because organizations tend to focus on the problem children or the
Mhm.
high potentials. And yet, the work is getting done. The day-to-day work is getting done, with those folks who have intrinsic motivation, and they're coming in and they're doing the job, and they don't ask for much. They come in and they get the work done, and it is so easy to overlook them. And I think that is such an important point, and that in the theme that has come up a few times in this conversation, or at least a reference that you have shared, is the importance of acknowledging that every single team member matters.
Yes.
And they are absolutely critical no matter what their position is in the organization. They matter to the organization, and that intentionality around acknowledging them. And no, they they don't no, they don't need accolades all the time, and all, but you have to acknowledge them. And there's there's a little, I'll call it an exercise. That's really not the right term, but I think it's more appropriate, a reminder. The Center for Creative Leadership, years ago, I came across this thing called the three dimes technique. And so, yeah, you put three dimes like in your left pocket in the morning, and each every time you acknowledge the good work of a team member, you try to do at least three team members. If you can do three team members a day, great. And it doesn't have to be, we're not looking for, big grand things. It's like, hey, Betsy, the way you handled Mrs. Smith and her complaint today, that was brilliant. Thank you so much for the way you bring calm and consideration, to the challenges that you face. I mean, it takes maybe 30 seconds to prepare for that, and less than 30 seconds to deliver it. And so then you take one dime from the left pocket to the right pocket. But it's and whatever that looks like, if it's post-it notes, three post-it notes on your computer or whatever, where you're acknowledging, the good work that your team members are doing on a regular basis. So that was one thing that I wanted to come back to, and the other one I've lost. But anyway, so
I love the three dimes though. I think it's
yes.
really being conscious. And just my team is coming in and they're saying just as if when you're paying attention to your words, it's also a way if you want a peaceful world, if you want a world where people are acknowledging others, it's a conscious effort you're doing every day. And everyone matters, everything they do matters. And when someone, and just think, if from here we have hundreds or thousands or millions every day where they're taking three things every day and acknowledging people around them, how important that is. Because there's other people, and my team is going back to the quiet ones. A lot of those quiet ones don't hear the acknowledgement. And to hear that from someone, they're going, oh, I do matter. It lets people know they matter. And we're all here. We all matter. Everything we do. And that is just, I think that's the best thing to think about for people to do that in some way. There's no pennies hardly anymore. I mean, there's a lot of pennies out there, but there's going to be less.
Yes.
Doing something, the
Well, and
dimes.
exactly. And I think that prompted me to think, remember the other thing that you were talking about joy, and how you bring joy. And so you don't have to be a leader to acknowledge the good work of
Yes.
you can acknowledge the good work of your leader. You can acknowledge the good work of your teammates. You acknowledge the good work of your children, of your significant other. I mean, it's just that you you bring the joy. And like you said, I mean, all of us have been in situations where we perhaps didn't have a great teammate or a great boss, and I don't want to minimize that absolutely is challenging. And I also want to acknowledge that each one of us is responsible for our own joy and
Yes.
for helping to spread joy. um, and that's really all we can control.
I think that's really important to know we are the ones that spread joy. You don't have to be the leader of the company. You can be part of a team. They're saying there must be people who are dealing with a lot of kids because they're saying you're the leader of them. Show joy when it gets frustrating to show that joy and show them how to do it. So it is important. You're the one that's leading by example. All of us are leading by example. Every single person. So it doesn't matter if you're the CEO, if you're someone working in a company, if you have your own, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're walking through life and you're retired. You're leading by example in how you acknowledge the people around you. And everyone who does that creates a different energy for this world. It's important. It's where we're going. So it starts with each and every one of us, and you're someone who's going out there and saying, here's things to look for. Here's how to work through those situations. I think that's so important. And changing the energies of workspaces, that's so important. More important than you can ever imagine because everything spills over at work to go to home. So it's so important that workspace. So for each and every person listening, that workspace So important. Doesn't matter what role you have. You're leading by example. Everyone's a leader.
Yes, absolutely.
I
Mhm.
know we're there getting close to where we were at our time. And is there something else you'd like to cover before we close for today or something you'd like to bring up?
Angela, I think we've yeah, we've covered so much good stuff, so much juicy stuff, and just it is the stuff that I truly believe, I'm truly passionate about, and as if we can each just make one little nudge toward creating an environment wherever that is appreciative, is respectful, is kind, is compassionate, and being really mindful of our assumptions and the conclusions that we may be drawing about others and their motives, and considering, huh, what's another story? What else might be going on here?
I really like that about really looking at you may have a story, you're they're saying you're not making it up, but it's stories you're coming up with. And to be able to look, maybe there's another story I need to hear. Maybe I need to hear that other story. And it's so important. And I love, love, love what you're doing. I think it is so important for everyone going forward and finding ways to all work together, finding peace because really when we have teams that work together in and they're my team is coming in and saying this is even when you're working in you're volunteering or anything like that, it's for people
Yes.
to stand up and say, this is making me feel this way, or that I'm taking this is how I'm taking it, can it be taken another way, is there another way to do it, because there's so much to be helped with they keep coming up with volunteering too, because you're getting those dynamics that are like in a workplace where you need to learn how to navigate them. And so this is very, very important for people to hear and very important to just change your perspective, look at new stories. So I am so, so happy that we were able to have you on today and to be able to go through some of this, to realize the difference it makes for everyone involved. This is a huge, my team is saying, this is a big part of the puzzle of the change that's happening. So know that. You're making a big difference in the world out there, Tess. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Angela. It's been such a treat. I've so enjoyed this, and hopefully your listeners aren't disappointed.
No, they couldn't be. I'm not disappointed at all. I think this is amazing. This is what we need. A lot of people look at spirituality and all this other as one thing. But to me, this is the everyday. This is the boots on the ground. This is what we're doing. And how do we change our everyday world to make it more encompassing and supportive and loving and understanding? And that's by taking everything we're learning and all this world out here and applying it to our everyday life. Because I'm just hearing one of the things my team has always said, we are here to not, so many people try to go to heaven, as they say, but we're here to make heaven on earth. And the more we make our lives more enjoyable, we're creating that heaven here. You don't need to go somewhere to find it, to experience joy and happiness and excitement. We can make it all right here. That's what we're here to do. And you're being a part of that to bring it to other people to show how important it is to go, how can I make a difference? Every single one of us are leaders. How can we make a difference? And doing it in a different way. So, very,
Mhm.
very important. So, I want to encourage everyone, go to her website. It's anglecoaching.com and walkingtheleadershipledge.com. And the links will be down below also, and also find her on LinkedIn and her book, Walking the Leadership Ledge, The New Leader's Guide to Building Resilience and Confidence in Every Step. And those are on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. And she also has a free The New Leaders Reality Check assessment. It's a 2-minute assessment to identify your leadership gaps, uncover team friction points, get a custom action plan. So definitely take the time to go check that out. There's a lot there for you. And I can't wait for you to check into more about Tess because I think she's amazing and I think you need to get to know her more.
And you too, Angela. Thank you so much. I so appreciate being on your show today.
Oh, thank you. This has been awesome. And I'm so happy to be able to share what you bring to so many people because it is absolutely needed, especially now. With that, I want to thank you so much, Tess, so much for your time, sharing your knowledge, sharing your heart, your journey. I appreciate it so much and so much of having you on here. And then I want to encourage everyone to watch the next episodes of Edge Talk Radio. They're on the first and third Wednesdays. New episodes come out the first and third Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you've missed any of the past episodes, no worries. You can go find them pretty much on most of the downloadable podcast areas, or you can watch the interviews on either my or Edge Magazine's YouTube channel. And also, there is it's starting to come out on Facebook, so you can watch them there. They're up there for a short amount of time. I don't know how long because everything changes and then they go away, but they're always there on YouTube and as a downloadable podcasts. So I want to thank everyone. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together. I appreciate each and every one of you and have an absolutely